All right, here in Module 4 of the Small Business Matters Bootcamp, we've talked about understanding financial performance. Just recently, we talked about financial planning. And our third topic for this module is understanding how companies like yours find capital, find cash to finance the growth of the company. So how did you, when you started your business, how did you finance your company? It's a question I like to ask business owners, and what I tend to hear is sometimes it's, well, I lent the company money, or I invested money in the company, or I used my credit cards, or I got family or friends, relatives to invest. A number of different ways that companies first get started in terms of capitalizing the business, funding the business. I believe at the highest level, as whether you're the owner of the business or the operator, you have three primary responsibilities as it relates to capitalizing your business. And that is, you are responsible for getting the right amount of money in the right place at the right time. So the right amount of money, is it you need to find $50,000, $100,000, how much money to fund your company's growth? You need to get it in the right place. Is it to buy equipment? Is it to provide working capital, like funding your receivables, your inventory, your payables? Is it to go into a new market, add a new product, to innovate? Getting the right amount of money and getting it finding the right place for that money. And then third is at the right time. The idea is to be again, in terms of planning, is to anticipate where and when your company is going to need capital over, say, the next 12, 18, 24 months. Is it this quarter? Is it next quarter? When will we need that money? And then also thinking about where that money might come from the bank, from investors, from you. Where will that money come from? There are a couple trends in the financing of small and mid-sized companies that I'd like to share with you. A couple trends. The first of which is there is more capital available to companies like yours today than there ever has been in the history of our country, whether it's debt money from a bank or it's equity financing from investors. There are trillions of dollars sitting, essentially we could say, on the sidelines, trillions of dollars available to companies like yours. So that's one myth I want to dispel, that because I hear this sometimes from business owners, that, oh, there's no money out there. Well, trust me, trillions of dollars out there available to companies like yours. So that's the first trend. Hand in hand in that is, I don't think it's ever been more difficult for companies like yours to acquire capital than it is today. So there's more money available, but it's harder to get your hands on, harder to acquire. Banks have had to get much tougher in their lending practices, in part due to government regulation, in part due to just being more careful. But bank money is harder today to acquire than it ever has been. Equity capital, investors, whether it's angel investors or private equity companies, being more diligent in where they're putting money. Even though they have the money, they're being more diligent than they ever have before, in part because many of them got burnt badly in the last recession of 2008, 2010. Both banks and investors, many took a hard hit during that recession. And so when they came out of the recession more than 10 years ago, it was with the idea that we're going to be a lot more careful in putting our money into small and mid-sized companies. So number one, more money than ever before. Number two, harder to get than ever before. And the third trend is there are more options for companies like yours to find money. Again, whether it's debt or equity, whether it's online, offline, traditional, non-traditional, for-profit, non-for-profit, domestic, international, more sources, more options for capital than we've ever seen before. In fact, it's gotten a little overwhelming, I find, for many business owners in terms of where should I turn today for capital. So those are the kind of the three biggest trends in capital for businesses today. Also know that as a company gets started and grows, your options change over time, and there are three stages of financing for small, mid-sized companies. The first stage is what's referred to as seed money. This is pre-launch, before a company even gets started. Typically, someone who's thinking about starting a business, they need a little bit of money just to go forward thinking about this business. We call that seed capital. That might be to do research, to do some initial marketing, a little bit of seed money just to get this business idea moving forward, pre-launch. Second stage of financing is what's referred to as either startup or launch capital. Now we've decided we're going to open this business, and in order to open this business, I need inventory, I need people, I need office space, I need capital to finance some, if not all of that. So that's startup capital. And then the third stage of financing is what's referred to as growth capital. Now I'm in business, we've got clients, we've got sales, we've got employees, and now I want to grow the business. And in many cases, I need some form of outside capital to fund that growth. Bank loan, investment money, I need growth capital. Okay? Three different stages of financing. When we come back, the next video, I'm going to talk a little more in depth about the two generic forms of capital for businesses like yours, and how do we decide which one to utilize in funding the growth of your company.